الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. Um, last week I discussed the first juz. Okay, but there is one lesson actually from the first juz that I didn't discuss, and I thought I'll share with you because it answers one of these questions that theologian and the philosopher try to answer. And the question was always is how Allah subhanahu is all merciful and all powerful. How come there is evil in the world? We can see the atrocities that's happening, for example, in Gaza, the killing, the random killing of people, the suffering and poverty and so on. Well, how can Allah allow it when He is so merciful? So when I went back and looked at this, in the first juz, I found actually the answer for it. And the answer comes in the angels. Because we know the question sometimes it give you when you ask a question, you learn something. If you are serious about the asking, try, to start, to basically challenge, the speaker. So the angels ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a sincere question. Ask them when Allah told them that He is going to create a vicegerent on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they told him, قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. They said, will you place one in it who will, and the one who is going to be a vicegerent, a khalifa, who basically will spread corruption and shed blood like what we have now. We see it now. While we declare all your praise and sanctity, and Allah said, answer them, I know what you do not know. Did Allah answer the question? Did Allah satisfy the curiosity of the angels? No, He didn't. All what He said, I know what you do not know. And that is the humility of us should be. If you are, the angel didn't argue, didn't say, wait a minute, you didn't answer the question. No, they accepted it. And this is what we have to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-wise, all-merciful, all-powerful. He doesn't have to explain to us everything that happened. We just have to accept this and recognize our level of knowledge is very limited. And therefore, sometimes we become curious about why this happened. Then you have to go back and answer the same answer you get from Allah. I know what you don't know. Yes, this is what is happening. I know it is happening. I'm allowed it to happen. But because I know what you don't know. And that will be the answer that we can get rather than worrying about trying to make all of the different interpretation. And people sometimes, particularly younger kids and so on, reach a point that they leave Islam because of this question. No, you recognize your own limitation. And frankly, in business, and Allah is the greatest example because obviously I cannot compare anything with Allah. But that's why I said this morning, I said Allah subhanahu give examples or parables when He tried to explain a concept even about Himself. He gave kamathali, this. So in that case, if you get a CEO sitting in, and we all work for companies, and then the CEO make a ruling, and maybe that ruling even, eliminate some management level that you believe that's so important. And, would you say why you did this? Or you accepted, you said he must have a strategy bigger than us, and therefore you accept it without challenging his authority. So we do it in real life. So why was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to explain to us everything that He allows and He does? So I thought that will be something that we learn to humble us regarding to our knowledge and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowledge. Allah knowledge is absolute, our knowledge is partial. And you don't know why Allah doing it, I'll accept He have a good reason to do it, and we go through. Now, no, He didn't. He didn't disagree with them. No, He knew. And the angel knew, because this is a whole issue about this issue about what did the angel know? I said, look, if you read the Quran, see the trouble with it, they know because Allah explained everything. Even Satan, because you know from the answer of Satan, when Satan was tried to, when Allah asked to prostrate and he didn't, did Satan threaten Adam? No, he threatened descendants of Adam. So he knew that Adam is going to go to earth and will have a children and so on. So all of this knowledge, they must have known it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there is another, we're probably digressing here from my talk. But in this one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names, and we discussed about the knowledge that give people respect the last time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, didn't I, I know what you conceal and what you reveal. So the question is, when the angel asked this question, what did they conceal? If you read the Quran, you find they conceal that yes, there is among those people whom I give them the freedom of a choice, who is going to inhabit the earth and become guardian of the earth. Some of them are going to be very righteous, some of them are going to be messengers, some is going to be prophet and so on. And therefore, they have, what they concealed, they focused in the bad ones, but they did not, mention that yes, there is going to be so many good people in it. And that's why, but the knowledge about them, people sometimes get and say, oh, there must be people before this and so on. That's how the angel. No, they know because they know. Allah told them. Satan knows. Allah, the angel knew. And if you look for Surah Al-A'raf, when Allah subhanahu He created, before actually asking them to do this, He brought all of the people from the children of Adam, which could alam al all we were created. And He said, am I not your Lord? And they said, yes. And if you look at the hadith comes in, and Adam was asking, all of them some of them has light over their head. So the angel was seeing this. And then said Adam was asking Allah, who those people have light? He said, these are the prophets and the messengers. So the angel know there is prophets and the messenger would come. And then the issue comes in and said, who is the one has the brightest light? And said, he is your son Dawood. So they know there is, and that was in heaven. That means he still haven't come, but he knew all of this. And it's interesting, people sometimes look at this Khalifa and said Khalifa means, came Khalafa another people. They feel there's two interpretation. Khalifa means a vicegerent, a deputy of Allah on earth, basically. And the other one is following other. I said, why don't you look in the Quran where is the other name Khalifa was used? The other name Khalifa was only used in the Quran twice. One in this case is Khalifa, and then ya Dawood, inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard لتحكم بين الناس. Oh Dawood, you are a Khalifa of ard. In ard, Khalifa what? Following the other? No, you are judge. You're supposed to bring, mercy and justice on the earth as a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or a vicegerent or a deputy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyway, but the whole issue actually, if you just forget about any other explanation and interpretation, and if there's an issue that's confusing, just to go collect all of the ayat in the Quran related to the subject, and they will give you the clarity of the subject. Because as I said, the Quran is not a linear book. So here Allah mentioned something, talk about Surah Al-A'raf, talk something else, talk about other things, keep going explaining. You have to do as an intelligent person to assemble the information and to study it this way, become easy. Now let's go to the second juz, inshallah. The second juz now has started with actually the important part, which is changing of the Qibla, and then talk about other things, and then the end with the story of Talut and the Galut. But the end, and also in this juz, talk about the fasting and talk about the Hajj and so on. Some, and actually talk about, there is other topics, will pick at least the 10 ones of which I'm going to share with you. And as I said, as you read it, you come with other. One thing which was striking in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the beginning, in the first juz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the Quran as guidance to the righteous. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. So it's guide only the righteous. And we emphasized many times that we said, if you go the Quran without this humility and righteousness to learn, the Quran can actually mislead you, or you can take advantage of it to mislead yourself. The Quran doesn't mislead by itself. But there is also in this second juz, Allah subhanahu say, when you talk about شهر رمضان الذي أنزل في القرآن, هدى للناس, guidance for mankind. So the Quran now has two forms, it seems like it has two levels of guidance. Has a universal guidance for everybody who comes sincerely to read. And there is a special guidance which gives you a different insight for those people who are righteous on it, who are really intended to learn it so they can apply it. Allah will help you, guide you how to apply it too. And therefore don't get confused. So the issue is the Quran speaks to all people, but it has a special impact on the people who really are, al-muttaqin, those who are God conscious. The other part on this in the surah, which started with, which is this change of the qibla. Muslim used to pray toward Jerusalem in the beginning, and now they pray through Allah subhanahu changed them to pray through the Kaaba. It's an interesting one thing also, and this is something you have to look at it from, because sometimes from the fiqh issues, when the Prophet ﷺ did not have revelations on a specific topic, he used the previous revelation that he knew of, like mainly the Torah. And that's why sometimes there is issues. The Quran comes with verses that set certain rule, but people quote an action of the Prophet ﷺ that again not applying this rule. And you said, wait a minute, did he apply this before this verse was revealed or after this verse was revealed? And if you look at, because if it was applied before the verse was revealed, he will apply the Torah rule. If it applied after, then that means there's a special rule from him. Now, the one challenging issue. Oh, he knew the Torah because most of the rules was in Mecca, or Medina, sorry, when he has the Jews. And the one example is always critical is the stoning of the adulteress. The Quran clearly say that you give 100 lashes. But they come and say, okay, the Prophet ﷺ did stoning, order stoning for a married, persons. So the question is, did he do it before or after? Because the stoning is in the Torah. And we know all the stories about when the Jews used to come to the Prophet ﷺ and tell him this. And we know the Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, how would they come to you to ask you to rule? With them, they have the book of the Torah, they have it. So he is, and remember when he was in Medina, they have the Jews. So in that, this question actually, and there's a lot of debate on it, but this question, no one can confirm that the Prophet ﷺ is stoned after the revelation from Surah An-Nur. And in fact, the one hadith which you come and ask somebody, he said, did the Prophet did it? He said, I don't know. I don't remember. So in that case, if you really want to take it, you said, okay, what is the basis? The basis is the Torah, is not the Quran. And therefore, Muslims should apply the Quran. And therefore, you get so many other debates. But anyway, so so he used to pray toward Jerusalem, and now Allah ordered him to pray through the Mecca, from the Kaaba, from Mecca. And that created a lot of ridicule from both sides. Ridicule. Remember, Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed where? In Medina, So in a long time, the Prophet ﷺ used to pray in Mecca, used to pray toward, well, I suppose he was in the Kaaba, and even early in Medina, he used to pray toward Jerusalem. And this is what the Jews came and said, oh, you change it. The other people, you're changing your ruling and so on. Remember, people sometimes, they use this as an explanation of what they call abrogation in the Quran, naskh. I said, well, a naskh means that there is a rule in the Quran, and then Allah changed the rules. But in this case, is there any verse in the Quran that says, pray toward the Jerusalem? There's no verse in the Quran, pray toward Jerusalem. But Allah subhanahu, yes. So there was an action of the Prophet. Allah didn't put it in the Quran even. So, but this directly made a shift. Now Muslims now has a special independent and special identity. Is no longer deviated from the previous revelations. Now they have their own. and they praying toward, one place, and established actually the Muslim Ummah as an independent Ummah, that they follow their faith, without copying anybody and without influencing also by the ridicule and the insult of other people. Because in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يقول السفهاء من الناس, that the foolish among people say, why they turn it, away from their qibla that they used to face. So it was used to basically harass, the Muslims at that time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you are completely independent. Don't worry about this. Because sometimes people actually compromise in religion because they are afraid from embarrassment from other people. No, don't be embarrassed. Follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another verse that's very important. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. We have made you a justly balanced nation, that you may be witness over mankind and the messenger a witness over you. So, you really have to think about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ummatan wasat. Wasat, that means you look, and frankly, I'll tell you this. Look to any issue that's confusing, any rule, and say, I look to the extremes first. And when you look the two extremes, reject them. You said, well, I know Islam is a middle. Look to the middle. And the looking in the middle require intelligence. If you look to anything, any subject, no matter how critical it is, I guarantee you, if you just identify the two extremes, and it's easy to identify, and you find people following one extreme or the other extreme that becomes so strict and extreme that becomes so loose. You know that this is wrong and this is wrong, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established this nation as a moderate nation. Because if you are extremist in either one, you cannot be a witness over people. But if you are a moderate person, you can be a witness, because what are you going, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. What are you going to shuhada? If you are extremist, obviously not everybody is going to tolerate this. And if you are lenient in everything, obviously you find people said, wait a minute, what religion is this? But if you are the middle, you are a role model of that moderate religion. And that's how you do it. Plus, you tell people, you're demonstrating how the religion, just the character, your character is easy to emulate and do it. So this part is very, and you can look to almost a critical point. You said, okay, work of women in Islam. What is that rules? I don't need a rule. I said, okay, what's the two extremes? Shouldn't work. Sit at home. The other one should do anything. Well, you said that's too wrong. Then you find out, yes, she can work under certain constraints. And now is there an example in the Quran of it? Yes. When Sayyidina Musa, the women who came to work, to take the animal and water the animal and take care of them. And yes, they did. They didn't mingle with the men and so on, waited until them. So yes, women can work in a decent, respectable position. It's not the objective this way when there is a need. So everything else you can do it this way in your mind. And you find that a hint in the Quran, an example in the Quran to demonstrate the issue. So the Quran is not, you should never be rigid or harsh, and you should not be lax or indulgent too. It's a moderate, as I said, it's a moderate nation in that. You should be a moderate person, a balanced person, a person that people can all people actually follow my example? Yes. If you extremists, believe me, no. And how you can ensure that you are purified? How you ensure that you are moderate? What are moderation? To do this, you have to avoid the two extremes. One, you have to have become righteous. And this is why a righteousness, what the Prophet ﷺ emphasized in his book, that the Prophet ﷺ kept, if you really think seriously about it, I don't understand why people are so confused about Islam that they keep asking questions. The people came to the Prophet ﷺ, has no cell phone, no record of any books or anything. He taught them basic principle, and they went in all their tribe, practiced Islam, promoted Islam, went and invited other people to Islam. But we are so overwhelmed with information that we don't even know what is the fundamental from that secondary or tertiary. This is the problem that we have. We complicated Islam and we complain. You know, I said, but the end of it, what? Allah subhanahu, when He told, I send you the messenger to do one thing. You know, before even you teach him the book, you know, you purify, you zaki him. You know, كما أرسلنا فيهم رسولا يتلو عليهم آياتنا. They are going to remind you the signs of God. And we said the signs of God is the creation of God. This is something that children should learn from younger age, to know who is Allah as a creator. And then why you zakihim, you purify them. They become pure, you know. People, honesty, sincerity, and all of these, you know, good character that everybody admire, because you are going to be a role model. And then وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and then teach them the Quran and the book, the wisdom. So in order to be a moderate person, to fulfill that role, you have to be pure. Your heart has to be pure. And then you have to also have certain wisdom, you know, in that regard. And what is wisdom? You know, wisdom, that means you know to say the right things in the right place at the right time, to do the right things in the right place, the right time. You know, that's wisdom, you know. And then the other element of it, to give you that moderation, the purification, and the continuous remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know your role that Allah assigned to you and how you do it. Remember Allah, that He is watching you and seeing you. And that's why, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah talk about فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. You know, remember me and I remember you. Remember you to guide you and help you, protect you. And then in the other, في Surah Al-Hajj, He said, فَاذْكُرُونِي كَذِكْرُ آبَائِكُمْ. And this is an issue interesting, because people sometimes said, oh, zikrullah, I'm going to say Allah, 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 say 10,000 times. If this is zikr of Allah, if this is how you, because Allah gave us here the example, do my zikr as you do zikr of your parent, and even more than your parent. How do you remember your parent? Is my parent is Muhammad, am I going to say Muhammad, 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 Muhammad? Or I'm going to remember my parent by all the wise advices he gave me, the blessing he gave me, the guidance he gave me, the help he gave me. So when you said dhikrullah, be grateful to Allah, remember His guidance, remember His commands, and so on. That's how you do dhikr of Allah. Yes, you can do dhikr with the names too, subhanallah. But even if we do subhanallah, alhamdulillah, subhanallah, you making, declaring the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be grateful for Allah attributes. You know, so the other lesson we probably can learn from this, Juz, is that everyone is going to, hardship is part of this life. This life is a test. By definition, it's not even a test, it's fitna. What's a fitna? Fitna is that when you want to clear gold, you know, if you get mine, you know, gold and the powder or whatever, the dust that come from it, and you keep, you know, heat about it and melting it under high fire, so the impurities goes out and pure gold remain. So the fitna actually is going to put you under test to bring in the best of you and show that are you really claiming belief is true or not. And there is verses in the Quran, you know, أحسب الناس أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يؤمنون. People think, you know, that they are going to say we believe, and then they are not going to be subjected to this hardship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, how you face hardships, يا أيها الذين استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. That you can, if you are tested in health and you loss of wealth, you know, loved one and so on, what do you seek? You have passive, patience is a passive endurance. But active, you know, basically perseverance comes from prayers. So you always have to come from the prayer. And this is why I'm interested. When the Prophet ﷺ used to do, we hear he said, you know, after the Imam, أقم الصلاة. The Prophet ﷺ didn't use أقم الصلاة only. He used أقم الصلاة أرحنا بها يا بلال. You know, أقم الصلاة, you know, Bilal, make call for prayer so we can be comforted with it. So directly, the prayer is supposed to bring, if you have difficulties, you're facing a trouble, you are stressed, go to the prayer. It's supposed to give you this relaxation and relief if we pray it properly and we believe that everything in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another part which would be interesting for Anis, since you work in, ship transportation and sea transportation, in this verse, actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in and said, Allah created for you إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار. Allah, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alteration of the night and the day. والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس. Allah talk about the creation of the heavens and the earth and talk about the ships that sail in the sea for the benefits of mankind. So if you take this ayah, I said, well, subhanallah, I better be the best country in developing, basically making ships, transportation systems, because this is the means that are going to transport. It's going to move culture from, people from one place to another. It's yes, we have planes, but all of the product connect people together through what? Through ships, you know. So Allah subhanahu is pointing this, and that directly, if you focus in building ships, you build the ships you have, then what do? You have to develop navigation system, then you have to have ports, then you have to have, it basically all civilization tools have been developed around, sail, about, the ships and the job of ships and the businesses, the marketing, the sales, and so on. And it's one word, wal fulk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, you look at this, because we said, Inna fi and the ships, we design it, but who did we really invent the ships? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invented the ships for us. Because who was the first one to build ships? Sayyidina Noah. And who taught him how to build a ship? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught him how to build it. So even that's why Allah put it in. This is a knowledge from me to you. And then I facilitated to make the ocean, make the wind, and so on. You can now become a leader in basically in the marine systems, and so on. Then another part of this, I tried in all of this to come with 10 if I could, also, this Jews talk about, basically the fasting and its purpose, that it is for the taqwa. And the objective here that Ramadan, yes, is an annual training as a camp for taqwa, but you shouldn't finish this. If fasting is intended to improve your taqwa, your consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should at least once, okay, you practice in Ramadan, then you should continue. The game started after Ramadan, actually. And if you know that Ramadan is a practice, is not a real game, look how difficult it is to do the tahajjud pray after Ramadan than before Ramadan. How difficult to fast after Ramadan than during Ramadan. During Ramadan, fasting is easy. Doing the Taraweeh is easy, which is supposed to be the night, the tahajjud, But after Ramadan, it's difficult. Why? Because during Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I am going to hold the Satans from you. I'm going to change the shayateen, it's not going to confuse you. So things are easy. After Ramadan, now the competition starts between you and the shayateen. That's why it's a little bit difficult. Hopefully during, because it's almost like a training camp if you're playing softball or football or anything. During the training, it's easy, But after, when now you get in a real game, that's the difficulty is. So people sometimes think as Ramadan is a difficult. No, Ramadan is the easy one, and is the training, and then after Ramadan is this. In the mix of this discussion about the discussion about the Ramadan and fasting, Allah subhanahu inserted this ayah. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. And when my servant asks concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when they call upon me. So let them respond to me and believe in me, that they may be rightly guided. So this is the only verse in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they ask you, and Allah didn't tell the Prophet, tell them. In all of the other verses, they ask you about this, about this, about this, what they spend, they tell them this. Ask you about this, tell them this. In this case, they ask you about me. Allah didn't tell the Prophet, tell them. He said, He removed the Prophet completely from it and said, Allah answered the question, I am near for it. And if they, whatever they do dua for me, I respond to them. But Allah put two conditions too. He didn't leave it. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. They should have obey me, and they should believe in me. So how can you don't obey Allah in everything, and now you ask Him, and you think He's going to respond to you? Or you don't believe in Him and ask Him? And this is why the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when a man comes in and how a man, his food is lawful, is unlawful, haram, is unlawful, his clothing unlawful, his drink unlawful, and he's even nourished with unlawful food, and now he's going to raise his hand and expect that Allah will respond to him? No, purify yourself to be ready for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to ask Him. But if you ask, He will respond to you. If you fulfill the two conditions in this regard. Now, you can say, well, yeah, but sometimes people ask and does not Allah respond? Well, they always say Allah will respond to you in one of three ways. Will respond, no matter how simple is your dua. Even if you ask Allah subhanahu, oh Allah, when I go to this place, please Allah give me a parking spot next, closer to the store. Because, the dua is a worship, because whom you ask somebody of authority, somebody high, you respect and honor. So when you do dua to Allah subhanahu, do for anything, now you go in and Allah subhanahu you don't find the spot next to the store. You know that Allah answer your dua. Answer it with two things. Either He will delay it for you, that you probably will go to another place which is more important, that you are rushing and there will be a spot for you, because this one you have more time, park away and exercise, a little bit. Or the end, you do it, either answer it now or answer it later with something better, or delay it for you to give you reward for it in the hereafter. So do you always benefit? That's why they said the companion used to do for anything, whatever. Don't be shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because sometimes people say, oh, that's a trivial request, I should ask Allah subhanahu for a parking spot, it doesn't, or I should buy, a good something, no, ask Allah subhanahu. If you think that He is your protector, He is your guardian, it's almost like, because you think about it, when we say, and we probably will come to it, we know that Allah is our wali. Wali, means Allah is your guardian. You are a child and you have a guardian, Didn't the child always ask the guardian for anything? Dad, can I do this? Can I do this? Can you give me this? Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also for the same thing. And that is a worship. This is an act of worship, because that's a 24-hour. You go into a meeting. Oh, Allah subhanahu, ensure that I don't say anything bad. Allah guide me that whatever I said, opinion I said, that you like it or respect it. And ask before you go. Now, then that Jews also go through the Hajj. And the Hajj is actually a renewal of the Sayyidina Ibrahim legacy in this case. And that's why and also it's a discipline of character. Because when you go to Hajj, you get people from all over the world with different culture, different behaviors, and so on. You really have to have patience. Somebody will push you, you don't get angry, and so on. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا فجور في الحج. That when you do it, that you can, during the Hajj, you must abstain from any indecent speech, from wicked conduct, and from quarreling in the pilgrimage. And frankly, when I went, I'm telling you, even not now, it's becoming so easy. Frankly, it's almost like a tour action because I went about 40 years ago or something, which it wasn't that bad. And when you are in Mina and standing, in line, and at that time, they separate, the European American and the Turkish was in one group, and then from Asia and so on. So you're talking about people who are supposed to be disciplined on it. You stand in the morning in Mina and you try to get, like tea or coffee or something, and people wants to cut the line, and boy, big fight comes in now in it. First of all, you could never cut a line if you're standing in a queue in England. Most people who's from Europe, from England specifically. Why you want to do it in front of the Muslim in the Hajj? And now all these people are not patient. Who are standing in the line, everybody wants to bring something and start the fighting. And therefore, really, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, you should quarrel, it's a discipline for your character in this regard. Oh, the other one, which in this also in the surah, Allah talk about the rules of divorce. But in general, when you have divorce, the emotion runs high, and this is where becomes difficult. The man gets so upset from the woman, or the woman gets upset from the man, and everybody's angry from each other. So when this Allah Subhanahu commands, don't be only fair, you know, no, in this case, you be generous. In spite the fact you have this animosity now because it's happening, but be generous. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells al-fadla baynakum. Okay, yes, you are in a conflict now, you are a case of separation, but don't forget graciousness that happened before between you. Even between, and this application can come between two partners. If you're a partner and you're breaking partnership with each other, still remember, be generous, be gracious also in that regard. And that, even in a case of conflict, it doesn't bring a conflict and enmity too. It brings, yes, there is a conflict and we are going to be separated. But in the meantime, we still, when we see each other, we smile to each other and greet each other because we are kind to each other and kindness. Then we come to the story of Talut and Jalut. There's many lessons in this one. It's interesting. It gives us the criterion of leadership, and they give us also the confidence of victory for the righteous. We know the story of Talut and Jalut, when basically the Jews came, this is the Israelite came to their prophet. First of all, interesting also here, the leader does not necessarily be the most, educated guy in religion. Because here is the Israelite went to their prophet and said, we want want a king over us, a leader over us. So the prophet was not the leader. So he told them, okay, basically Talut will be your leader. He said, wait a minute, Talut is not wealthy, and he doesn't come from, a big family or something. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the criterion for them. He said, no, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَاهُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a leader should have two criterion. One, he should have, knowledge. Allah blessed him with knowledge, and then also with physical attributes. Because frankly, it's sometimes physical attributes, impress people too. And if you have a leader who is physically weak, it doesn't bring a lot of respect for people. Even the physical attributes get you to respect him before you know his knowledge. But Allah subhanahu put the knowledge first. So he has knowledge. So if you look to a leader, complain about countries, look to them. Are they having knowledge? Knowledge, and now knowledge, not knowledge, remember, knowledge in religion, because they have the prophets already. Knowledge in politics and defense and the army and whatever, educated people who know something, that you become impressed with from their knowledge because they will make a decision for the state. And also they impress other people just by projecting themselves. Then the second element of it that comes in it, when you know all of the story, when the Talut, came in and he made a test for them to sure, and this is important part actually. It is not the number, it is the quality of the people when Allah give victory. So even in this, Talut is coming with this army from the Israelites, and he made a test on them, physical test for them, and who failed the test to move them away, let them go back. So his number get reduced. He himself reduced the number. So when they went in and saw Jalut, and Jalut, boy, a huge guy with a big army and so on, some of them started giving doubt. And having doubt is not an issue, and said, well, how can we do this now? قالوا لا طاقة لنا اليوم بجالوت وجنوده. We have no strength today against Jalut, Goliath, and his army. Just look at this. Well, how many of us, and look at them. And here is when comes, but you always have, because if you have righteous people, the level of righteousness is different. There is people might get scared. You're still righteous, but you can have fear too. But there is other people who will reinforce you. And therefore, those people, the small group that they come, he said, have a stronger faith. They came and said, كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله إن الله مع الصابرين. That, how often a small group overcome a large group by the will of Allah, and Allah is with those who are patient. Just be patient, trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the victory will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So victory is not about number, but about faith and the divine support in that case. So you see, I had it, yeah. And then also in the surah, here is something important. When, unlike most nations, most nations sometimes attack other nation to take over resources, and take the land, they take resources, whatever it is. And when they gain, even if they have animosity and win, they abuse the defeated army and defeated people. But here in the Quran, the principle, he said the Muslim nation are commanded to fight, to protect it as defensive fight, which is a very interesting. I don't know what's in Pakistan, but in Egypt, they call it, the war ministry. While here, what they call it, a defense ministry.
They're changing the name now.
And
War Department.
War Department. Okay, now becoming, so and what's the name in Pakistan? Defense. Okay, and this is this is the proper way actually. It is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi sabil ladina yuqatilunakum, fight in the way of Allah. Those who fight you, that means you are defending yourself. But then Allah put a condition to then leave it this way. He said, وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Now, so even if you gain victory over them, don't transgress. But you look to, this is a very unique actually in Islam teaching, if Muslim actually follow the religion, because in order to guarantee support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you cannot pick and choose. You have to fulfill Allah command 100% to get his guarantee 100%. So in this case, if you look to any fight, if the Muslim violate the rules, then they will suffer the consequences. It's not their enemy stronger than them. No, they themselves will suffer the consequences. And the war will extend. But if they fulfill the commands of Allah straight, there is no way they are going to lose. And we notice even when the Prophet ﷺ with them, when they violated the commands, they lost. And when they stuck with it, no matter how small of a number, they began victory, in this regard. So anyway, that is the 10 lessons that we can learn from the Jews. And as I said, please go read it again. And when you read it, you might come with different ones. and expand. I said it will be great actually, because at the end, as I do assemble these books from these talks, then in that case I can make it as a collective book for Mariam Recreation Center. This book was, as I said, all talks that you have. So there's nothing here you haven't heard it, by the way. You might forgot it, but that means it doesn't anything. So this book actually would be a nice book. If we come from every juz, I would come with 10, you can come with another 5 or 10, then we have 20 and 30 juz. We have, 600 basically lessons, and people can read it and they talk about the whole Quran covered, in this regard. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت، وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت، فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا، وانفعنا بما علمتنا، وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك، وبطاعتك عن معصيتك، وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parents, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. Oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.